This is the Chris Berry Show. Expert information on wealth, estate, and tax planning for the second half of life. Information that you can understand. Here's your host, Chris Berry.
Welcome to the show. Very excited. This week we have a very special guest, Julie Eddings from the Hamburg Senior Center. And she's going to talk to us about the role senior centers play, and specifically the Hamburg Senior Center, which is a really nice place. And today on the show, we're going to start with a positive focus, and it's something we start all of our shows with, just something positive that happened the previous week. And for me this past week, a little bittersweet, but it is a positive focus. One of my good friends, he's retiring from the police force. Not going to say where, but he's in a township here, and he's retiring from the police force. And he's moving actually to Arizona. He's not like fully retired for the rest of his life, but he is planning on taking some time off and kind of taking a mini retirement for a little while. And moving to Arizona, where he has some family, and his nephew is out there. So he's pretty excited, and we had a send-off to head him, to welcome him to his next phase of his life. So it was great to see that. And so I thought what we would do is just talk about, to start off this show, as we bring Julie in the second segment, start off talking about just some ways to help make planning for retirement a little bit easier. For many people, the idea of redesigning their investment portfolio and their financial life for retirement can seem overwhelming because you're going from a different phase of your life. And after all, you've done things one way throughout your working career, but now we need to think about things a little bit differently. And we've talked about this, the idea that we're going from a different phase of life. We're going from an accumulation phase to now a preservation and distribution phase. And so we need to think about things a little bit differently. And so now that we're going from accumulation to preservation and distribution, we need to think about things a little bit differently. And so I thought what we would do today is talk about 5 things that can make that thinking about retirement process a little bit easier. And the first thing is to have that emergency fund. So my friend, as he's taking a little bit of a mini retirement, he's stowed away some cash, and he has about 6 months worth of expenses saved up. And that's kind of a sweet spot. Most people should look at having an emergency fund of about maybe 6 months worth of expenses. It might be a little bit different depending on where you are or in life or what you're planning on doing, but this is that now bucket of money. This is money that is available, it's safe, liquid, you can get access to it right away. Think of it as the money you might need over the next year. For example, I met with some clients, sat down with some clients actually last Friday, and she was still working for GM. These are hypothetical clients, of course. She was working for GM, and he was retired, and we were talking about how much cash they wanted to keep on hand versus how much they wanted to invest. And they had 2 children that are just about done with college. They wanted to fix up the roof on their property up north. So in their situation, they can keep a little bit more on hand because they know they have these expenses coming up. So the first thing is have that emergency fund. Second thing is look at paying off debt. So understand, especially in retirement, you want to minimize outgoing costs, and one of those things is debt. So think about maybe paying off that mortgage, maybe things like paying off a car, paying off that debt. Third thing is focus on your retirement life and define what it looks like. So, and this is something that I see is sometimes people are just retiring from something, but what I find is that retiring from something versus retiring to, it looks very different. So having something that you're looking forward to is going to make your retirement more enjoyable. So focus on your retirement life and define what it looks like. So have a plan. And it doesn't have to be plan on waking up at the same time like you did when you're going for work, but just have a plan of what your retirement's going to look like. And then develop a plan that details as much as possible. So the more you have thought about things like how much money you want to have in savings and outstanding debts, and when will you turn on Social Security, and how will you cover healthcare costs, and how much income do you need from Social Security or pension or drawing on assets, how will you address inflation, how much risk are you willing to take on in your different investments. So there's a lot that goes on into kind of coming up with a plan for retirement. And the more thought you put into it, the earlier you start thinking about these things, the better off you're probably going to be. For example, my friend who's moving to Arizona and is kind of doing this mini retirement, he's been planning this for the last year or so. So he worked on stocking away the cash and having everything in place so that when it was time for the move, he's ready to go. Next, understand the different financial vehicles, the risks they carry, and the objectives they address. So understand that there's different types of investment vehicles that offer kind of different pros and cons. And when we're talking about the world of investing, typically I like to say that there's really 3 options, and you're able to choose 2 out of those 3 options when we talk about looking at these different investment tools. And I hesitate to talk about or spend so much time talking about the tools because really it starts with goals. It starts with what are your dreams and your goals, and then from there developing the right strategies to help you achieve your dreams and goals. And then and only then do we focus on the different tools that are available. But in the investment world, typically what we see is there's about 3 options, and you're able to pick 2 of those options. So a lot of times when I'm sitting down with clients or families, I'll draw this out. And if you're listening at home, I invite you to participate as well. If you're driving, you probably don't want to look away from the road to be able to do this. But what I'd invite you to do is take out a piece of paper and write down 3 things. And so these are the 3 options. And one is returns, so growth of your money. The second thing to write down would be safety. So we have safety, we have returns, and then the third option is liquidity. And so any investor can really pick 2 out of those 3 items. So for example, if you have money sitting in checking and savings and money market, well, you have safety and you also have liquidity. But what you're not getting is many potential returns, right? Because what is your checking account or savings account paying you in terms of interest right now? Not a heck of a lot, right? And then you could have money that is getting you potential returns, but is also liquid. So think of this as having money invested in the market, like in the stock market. So mutual funds, IRAs, 401ks, that type of thing. That money is liquid. You can pull the money out at any time, and you can get potential returns. Now, the downside of it is there is risk involved, right? So there's no safety. So in that situation, we can circle returns and liquidity. So that would be money invested in the market. So we have, think of that now bucket of money. So that's money that's your emergency fund sitting in checking and savings, maybe 1 year's worth of your expenses. That money should be safe and liquid. So if we're choosing 2 out of 3 options of returns, safety, and liquidity, money sitting at a bank would be safe and liquid. And then money in the market would be returns and liquidity. And then the other option would be looking at returns and safety. So a way to grow your money, but also ensure that you don't lose your money. So what would be some examples here? Where, well, on the short term, it would be things like CDs. So you might have a 3-month CD, a 6-month CD, 9-month CD, 2-year CDs. We have some CDs that are tied to an index, so index CDs. And you can get these at your bank. You can get them in investment funds. So CDs would be kind of a short-term option. And because it is a shorter-term option, the returns are lower, but you still have safety. But you are sacrificing some liquidity. And the more liquidity you sacrifice, the greater the returns. So typically 1 year to 3 years, you're looking at CDs. Now, if you were to say, what about 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 years, where you're not going to pull all your money out for maybe 3 to 5 or 7 years? Well, then instead of CDs, typically we look to what's called MIGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuities. And these operate similar to CDs, but instead of being offered by banks, they're offered by insurance companies. And because typically they're a little bit of a longer term than that CD, typically they'll offer more of a return. So you're still getting that safety, so you're not going to lose your money. You're getting those returns, and because you're willing to sacrifice more liquidity by a longer time horizon, you're going to get better returns than, say, CDs. And then the third category of investments or options that have both safety as well as returns, but you're sacrificing liquidity, would be moving into the world of annuities. More specifically, things like fixed index annuities. And a lot of times these will be based on a time frame of 10 years, where you can pull out 10% of your money annually without any penalty. Those are called free withdrawals. But the idea is that you're not going to take back all of that money for a 10-year period. And there's lots of different types of annuities. I could do a whole show just on annuities. But that's kind of the third option, the longer time horizon, if you're looking for some safety and returns. So as you're moving into retirement, it's important to utilize these different investment options based on what your strategies are and what your dreams and goals are. And that's really the starting point. So my friend who's moving out to Arizona, and he's retired from the police force here, and he might pick up an employment or a job, but he's going to take some time off. Well, for that time that he's not working, he now has an income gap, and he's too young. He can't claim Social Security or anything like that. So it's important in his situation that he has some money set aside that's safe. Because one thing that we don't want to get into is a situation where we're pulling money from investments that are going down in terms of value. Because this creates what we call a sequence of return risk. So imagine that you're pulling money for retirement and then a 2008 happens. You're not going to have enough time to build up that portfolio again. So in the situation of my friend who's moving to Arizona, he's not planning on working for the next year or so. Take some time off and enjoy himself. And so it's important for him to have that money so it's set aside, it's safe, and it's liquid. Because we don't want that money in the market, because if he were to pull that money out during a downturn, then it could have a dramatic effect on the rest of his potential retirement. So those are some things to think about if you are nearing retirement or even taking a mini retirement, like my friend who's moving out to Arizona. So some things to consider: understand your financial vehicles, the risk they carry, and the objectives they address. Develop a plan that details as much as possible. Focus on retirement life and define what it looks like. Not all retirements are equal. Figure out what's best for you. Try to minimize those outflows, pay off any debt if possible. Now, that said, there's good debt and bad debt, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to pay off a mortgage. And then the first thing and probably most important thing is make sure that cash emergency fund is in place. So make sure you have that now bucket. And that now bucket is money that you think you'll need over the next 6 months or to a year. So it's safe, it's liquid, it's available. You can get access to it without having to worry about taxes and that type of thing. So hopefully that was helpful. And that was just some lessons for my friend who's moving out to Arizona, who's taking a little bit of a mini retirement, or anyone else out there who's listening who's around retirement age. And again, stick with us as we continue this conversation today where I'll have Julie from the Hamburg Senior Center. That'll be our second segment today. And then our third segment, we're going to get into some questions and answers from our listeners. So if you do have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 810-355-2584, or you can email us anytime at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com. And then if you wanted to see the show basically live, we do workshops about once a week at one of our different locations. So coming up in November, we're going to be, this will be November 12th, Tuesday. We'll have a workshop at our Brighton office at 2 o'clock. And then Thursday, November 21st, we're going to have a workshop at our Brighton office. That's going to be at 6 p.m. So Tuesday, November 12th at 2 p.m. at our Brighton office, and Thursday, November 21st, 6 p.m. At our Brighton office. And stick with us as we continue the conversation, and we're going to bring in Julie Eddings from the Hamburg Senior Center. Very excited to have her on the show. And then join us in our third segment as we get into our questions and answers.
If you or a loved one is facing long-term care costs, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm, like Kevin Prokop did.
My mother, who's like 90 years old, she needed to qualify for Medicaid insurance. I thought it was a good idea to hire a professional to help us go through that process. And that's why we hired the Elder Care Firm. I would recommend them. They're very patient in this delicate situation, dealing with an elderly parent who might not understand what's going on completely. And they were very patient with us and kind, and I would definitely recommend them.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. I can help you develop the best plan possible. Call 810-214-3800 to schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation or to reserve your seat at our next workshop. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions.
Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800.
All right, welcome. So very excited to have Julie Eddings with the Hamburg Senior Center. So how you doing, Julie?
I'm great. How are you today?
I am doing fantastical. So I thought it would be great to have you on the show just to talk about kind of your role at the Senior Center, what the Senior Center does, and I know a lot of different communities have senior centers. So I thought it'd be great to have you on the show.
Good. Thank you for inviting me.
So let me ask you this. How did you get into kind of the world of helping seniors and elders and that type of thing?
It all started with my grandma.
Okay.
So I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years, and I was looking to enter back into the world of work, and my grandma attended the Hamburg Senior Center. So I went to their website, and they had a position open, so I applied. I name dropped a little bit, and she was so, she still is very well loved there, and boom, the rest is history.
All right, good. So, and how long have you been there?
I've been there 10 years.
Holy cow.
Yes.
Okay, so time flies, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So what, I guess, happens at a senior center? Like, I know this, and I visited in Hamburg Senior Center. It's great. So what is it? What is a senior center?
It's a community center for seniors.
Okay.
It's a place where they can come and have social recreational activities, health and wellness programs, all sorts of things that are geared towards their age group.
Okay. And so what is your role there?
I am the director of the senior center, so I help them facilitate what they want. I make the newsletter, I help plan the activities. Basically, I take what they want and what they wish for and try to make it happen.
Okay. It seems like you kind of run into some interesting situations. How do you weigh the different wants and desires between the people? Are they kind of ever on the other side of the table, or are you having to bargain with them, or?
No, they're such a great group of people, that if they want something, then we'll see what we can do. We'll all work together. It's a collaboration.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
It usually works out.
Good. And so what are some of the activities that you do there?
We offer social and recreational. We have potlucks.
Okay.
We offer euchre games, pinochle games, mahjong, ripple. We have
What's Ripple?
Ripple is a card game. So if you've
Okay.
ever played golf,
Yeah.
it's very similar.
Okay.
Not golf, like the card game
Okay,
golf.
nope.
It's very similar. It's actually really kind of popular at the senior center right now.
All right.
I've only played it a few times, but we have exercise programs. We have
Okay.
chair exercise. We have yoga. We have
Yeah.
chair yoga. We have acupuncturist who comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We do educational seminars on health. We have bingo.
Yeah.
Any kind of activity, we try to get it out there.
Okay.
We have art classes. We have a watercolor group meets with us. A portrait painting group meets with us.
Yeah. And is there a cost to the different programs or?
Most of the costs are in your membership fee, which
Okay.
is $5 per year for the Hamburg Senior Center.
Oh, wow. That's
I know, it's tough.
really
It's
breaking
tough.
the
It's
bank.
Sometimes there is a specific instructor fee,
Okay.
and that will always be listed in the newsletter.
Okay. All right. And so how do you choose these activities? Are you like taking a poll? Is there a vote or?
A lot of
kinda
them. A lot of them have been.
conversations?
A lot of them have been set. Like our calendar, since I've been there, has
Yeah.
been. We do chair exercise on Mondays. We do chair
Okay.
exercise on Thursdays. We do yoga on Tuesdays and
Yeah.
Wednesdays, and then we just try to fill in with things that they request.
Sure. Yeah. Are you the one leading all the activities?
No, we have specified people for that.
Okay. All right. Good. And so it sounds like kind of having a senior center is great for that senior community. So what would be the benefits of a senior center?
Well, I think the very best thing that we can offer is we combat loneliness. You know, there's a lot of talk right now about loneliness is now like public health enemy number one.
Yeah.
And you can come and meet like-minded people who are in the same situations as you are, and get you out of the house and get you something to do
Right.
that's fun and engaging.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. That seems to be something that, especially as people are maybe aging in place more, where
Right.
they're aging
Right.
at home, if you're to lose a spouse.
It can be it's really hard. And
Right.
it's nice to have a network of people who have been there, who have gone through it. And it's just, it's a fun place. I hope when people walk in, they sense that, we're out to have a good time,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, and so you brought it up that way. One of the things we see as people age, sometimes families have to transition from living at home to assisted living. And I would say, well, at least one of the good things about independent or assisted living is that sense of a community. There's more activities
Right.
where it's protecting against that isolation. But
Yes.
the way you present it, and that makes a lot of sense, is that a senior center in a community is kind of that answer for those seniors who are still living
Who
at
are
home.
still at home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so how do people find out about the senior center?
Well, we have a website. We also put out a newsletter once a month, and a lot of it's word of mouth.
Right.
My neighbor said that I should come and sign up, and then we'll walk you through everything that we do, and hopefully we'll get you back.
Yeah. And so how do you become a member of Hamburg Senior Center?
You come on in, you
Okay.
come to the office, you talk to me or the team, and you pay $5. You fill out some membership cards.
Okay.
We go over the newsletter with you. We kind of try to find out, what activities you may be interested in.
Sure.
If you're nervous, if you don't know anybody, and you kind of let us know what you'd like to do, we can get you in with, a certain group of people to kind of break the ice a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Yeah. And is it only limited? Is Hamburg Senior Center only limited to people who live in Hamburg then?
No, anybody can come.
Oh, really?
We're open to everybody. Yep.
Okay.
If you're willing to drive to us or get to us, then come on in.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
How long has the Senior Center been there? Do you know?
The Senior Center's been there since I think they broke ground in the late 80s.
Oh, really?
And it's a really fantastic area because we're off of Merrill Road. And it's the township hall is there, the library is there, and the police station is there. So we're like a campus.
Yeah.
And so you can come in, you can go to the library and come to the senior center, you can go pay your taxes. Everything's right there.
Yeah. I'm surprised it's been there that
It
long.
has. It really has.
Nice community, nice
In the same
facility
building,
there.
and it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
It really is. We're very lucky.
Yeah. And so, again, what types of programming do you offer there?
We have, on Mondays, I'll kind of run you through our
yeah,
week. On
yeah.
Mondays, we have chair exercise at 10 o'clock, and then we have a lunch at 11:30, and then we break into games. There's euchre, there's mahjong, and there's ripple.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesdays, we have 2 yoga classes. The first one's a floor yoga class, and the second is a chair yoga class. And then we have lunch again, and then there's bingo for the afternoon.
Okay.
Wednesdays is another yoga class, and lunch. And Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of the month, is also when we celebrate that month's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So this Wednesday is
Yeah.
the first Wednesday of November, so we will celebrate all of November's birthdays.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, the watercolor group meets, and a Tai Chi group comes in.
Oh, okay.
And then on Thursdays, it's we have exercise, chair exercise at 10 o'clock. Exercise. After exercise, we have lunch, and then pinochle, mahjong, and ripple.
Okay.
And then Fridays is kind of our social day. That's the day we plan potlucks, the day we have movies, and a kitchen band. We actually have a kitchen band that comes in and plays every
Kitchen
morning.
band.
They play old time music. They're really fun. There's a woman that plays the spoons. They have, just all sorts of interesting things. They're a really fun group to come listen to.
Okay. All right. And then
So
anything,
all that's in our newsletter.
Okay. All right. Anything on Saturdays and Sundays?
Nope, we're closed Saturdays
Okay.
and Sundays.
All right. So pretty busy Monday through Friday.
We're a Monday through Friday operation. Yep,
Okay.
9 to 4.
All right. Good. And is there any issues with transportation? What if someone can't drive?
We are now very fortunate. The township has a collaboration with LETS, which
Okay.
is the Livingston Essential Transportation System in the area. On Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, you can get a ride to and from the senior center from your home
Okay.
if you live in Livingston County.
Okay.
And we also offer outings that day. So on Mondays, we kind of hit the Brighton area, and on Fridays, we try to hit the Howell area. And then on Wednesdays, we kind of do special outings. Like last Wednesday, we went to the Jiffy factory in Chelsea.
Oh, really?
We have a lunch bunch. We're trying to hit, local restaurants in the area, and we do a movie day where we head over to MJR,
Oh, okay.
and we're hitting some shopping malls. So
Okay. All right. Exciting stuff. So you've been there 10 years.
10 years,
Have you seen
yep.
any changes?
I've seen an increase in membership
Okay.
and a demand for more programming.
Yeah. Okay. How many members do you have roughly?
Active, we probably have 550 active members.
Holy cow.
Yes.
Wow.
But in our database, we have 1,200.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And how many people are usually showing up each day?
We see an average of 60 to 70 people per day.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we're a busy place.
Yeah.
It's happening there.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So any challenges in the 10 years they've experienced, or maybe with the growth?
I think that we've been prepared for the growth. We're very, very fortunate. The township is incredibly supportive of us. They really respect the senior population in the community. So in that sense, we've been really blessed. They took the initiative to start this busing system. They saw a need that, to keep people in place. We had spoken about that earlier. How can we keep people aging in place instead
Right.
of? And the township said, "Hey, let's get this bus going. Let's meet the needs of these people, and let's get them in to your building, and let's connect them with their community." So, I've seen those types of changes. I like to say that I have a really great time there every day.
Yeah.
And I do every day. It's
Yeah.
a great day. It's hard. You lose members, and
Yeah.
that's tough.
Right. Is there any collaboration with other senior centers at all? Any associations? Or?
We actually, I try to keep in touch with a lot of the area senior centers and the directors. It's a great resource to bounce
Right.
ideas off
Yeah.
of. Hey, where'd you get this person, or have you dealt with this? So yes, it's a good group of people to be in touch with.
Yeah. Do you have anything around like tax time? I know some of the senior centers have some tax programs.
So ARP comes into the library right next door.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
there comes into the whole place of the campus.
Yeah.
So you can come onto the senior center, and then you can go next door to the library and get your taxes done.
Cool. And then any special events or anything coming up?
We do. On Saturday, November 16th, we
Okay.
have our annual holiday bazaar.
Okay.
Local craft vendors will be there from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have a raffle drawing. We have a bake sale. We have a chili and hot dog lunch. It's a good fun day. And you
Awesome.
can get your head start on your Christmas shopping.
Oh, there we go. And where do you see, I guess, looking into the future, where do you see the senior center heading, or any challenges?
I think it's only going to get busier.
Yeah.
We've all heard the statistics of the demographics, and 55 and older, 65 and older, that's rising rapidly. I see us outgrowing our building at some point,
Okay.
needing some more space.
Yeah.
But I I think we'll be up for it. We're ready.
All right. And if someone wants more information about the Hamburg Senior Center, what's the website, the phone number?
So you can go to the township website, which is www.hamburg.mi.us. There's a cultural recreational tab at the top. And if you click on that, you can find the senior center. You can call us. Our number is 810-222-1140, or you can stop by. Our address is 10407 Merrill Road in Hamburg Township.
Okay. And in terms of the membership, it's $5, so it's
$5 a year.
Certainly not breaking the bank. I'm guessing the funding isn't just from the $5 memberships.
No, we are blessed that the township funds us.
Okay. If someone wanted to get involved, is there any volunteer opportunities or anything?
We love to have volunteers. You know, it's different things at different times of the years. We just had our we call it a new and used sale. It's like a big garage sale.
Yeah.
And you should have seen the people who came in and helped out. I mean, it went seamless. It was effortless. It's all because people volunteer.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about this age group. They are phenomenal volunteers.
Sure. Yeah. And so tell me more about that event. What was that event?
It's our new and used sale. It's a garage sale.
Yeah.
And we collect stuff from the community
and
we sell it in one big area.
Okay. And then the funds
go right to the senior center.
Senior center? Nice. Yeah. So you mentioned one event. Any other events coming up that you're excited about? Or
we're also going to get ready for our big Christmas party, which is December 3rd. We work with the local Kiwanians, and we put on a party for about 100 of our seniors.
Yeah. And then what about next year? Do you have any big events annually?
Our two big events are our new and used sale in September, and then our Bazaar in November. But we're looking to plan. I'm already planning January. I'm looking ahead to try to get us back in and rolling and get the bus moving. And
and that's a kind of interesting collaboration. What I found is that as this kind of baby boomers are retiring, there's more linking of these different community resources like transportation and senior centers. Any other collaborations or kind of networking that you're doing to make sure that the Hamburg Senior Center is really part of the community there?
We do. We have educational programs such as yourself.
Sure.
We had you come in, and we try to connect with services that we think people could use right then and there.
Sure.
So we're always looking for things like that to come in.
Yeah, and what are some of the, educational programs or some of those services that you've brought in that?
We've had the Attorney General's office there just recently. They did an online scam program and a investment scam program. So those are very important things. So we try to do that. We actually just had a organic farmer come in.
Interesting.
And teach us about planting, and then she just came back and she taught us about storing what we got all summer long. So
that's an important part.
So just little things as they come up. We love to promote them. We put them in the newsletter and try to get as many people as we can to come and listen.
Okay, all right. Well, Julie, I want to thank you so much. It was great learning about the role the Senior Center plays, and specifically the Hamburg Senior Center. And again, if someone has some more wants to learn more or even join, what's the best way to connect with you?
Give me a call. Just give me a call, 810-222-1140.
Okay. And then one more time, the website?
www.hamburg.mi.us, and it's the Cultural Recreational tab.
Okay. All right. And so with that, Julie, thank you so much. I enjoyed learning all about the Hamburg Senior Center today. Hopefully some of our listeners reach out to you. I think it's an amazing resource, and I think it's one of those important tools to help people stay at home as long as
Definitely.
possible.
A great way to connect with your community. It really is.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And this has been Julie Eddings with the Hamburg Senior Center. Join us after the break as we continue talking about planning for the second half of life.
If you or a loved one is in need of estate planning, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm, like Don and Deb Milner did from Heartland.
We worked all our lives for retirements and pensions and everything. And if you don't pay attention, somebody will become ill and you'll lose everything that you have to the illness. And then when one of you closes your eyes and leaves, the other one goes, I'm standing here bankrupt, broke, and I'm in my 80s. What do I do?
You can prepare for dying in estate planning, but what happens if you live and you have to sustain yourself, in a nursing home or an extended care facility and those kinds of things?
So if you don't plan for that, you're going to end up in a really different place.
I guess from my perspective, I would recommend Chris to anybody. He and his staff treat us like family, not just somebody that I'm paying to take care of my estate.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. I can help you develop the best plan possible. The elder care firm is here to help you and your family find solutions.
To schedule a consultation or sign up for a workshop, visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800.
It was great to have Julie on the show, just talking about the role senior centers play. And it is an important role because it's helping seniors stay active, stay part of the community, but still being able to live at home. Now, what I like to do, and we do this quite often, is get into some of the questions and answers from some of our listeners. And the first question is, what's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? So this is a question that comes up quite a bit, actually, in our working with our clients. And understand that Medicare, and if you've been a listener of the show, we just had Patty Gibbons, who she's certified through Medicare, and she helps people with their Medicare plans. And there's a Part A, Part B, Advantage, and Part D. So there's all these different types of Medicare. But really, Medicare is covering a couple different things. It's covering when someone has to take advantage of any types of office visits, as well as prescription costs, as well as rehab. And this is where people get confused on Medicaid and Medicare. Medicare, there's no asset test or income test, though if you do have quite a bit of income coming in, then your Medicare premiums could be slightly higher. But Medicare typically covers short-term rehab. So if you're to fall, break your hip, and then all of a sudden go into the hospital for 3 days, admitted for 3 days, then Medicare could pick up the cost of your rehab. So think of it as covering an event, where now Medicare will cover up to 100 days of rehabilitation and medical care. Now, you have to be participating in that rehab, and you have to be either maintaining or improving for Medicare to continue. And then also you might need to have a supplemental insurance program to cover the shortfall. And that's where, like Patty Gibbons, who we had on the show, she might be able to help you with that supplemental insurance plan. But after 100 days, Medicare is going to run out. And Medicare differs from Medicaid in that it could provide some help for home care and skilled care at home. But again, it's going to be limited, and it's going to be more of a short duration type situation. Versus Medicaid, Medicaid is going to be long-term care more in a nursing home than covering home care or assisted living. And then Medicare also is truly an age-based program where you have to be 65 or older, or if you're younger, you have to have certain disabilities. Whereas Medicaid is really available to anyone, though typically when we're talking about Medicaid, we're talking about care in a nursing home. So typically our focus when we're talking about Medicaid with clients is going to be more of a senior in the sense of they're going to need some type of long-term care in a nursing home. And that's really what Medicaid is going to cover is nursing home stays. So that final step on the elder care journey. So if we start out relatively healthy and living at home independently, then we might need to bring in some home care, which would be private duty home care. And then we might transition to independent or assisted living. And then we might transition to needing nursing home care. The average stay in a nursing home is about 2.5 years. And current statistics say 1 out of 2 individuals will need nursing home level care. And then this is where Medicaid can come in to help pay that cost of care. Because again, if a nursing home is running $8,000 to $12,000 a month, the question is how in the world are you going to go about paying for that? And that's where Medicaid can come in to help pay for that cost of care. But to qualify for Medicaid, a single individual can only have $2,000 worth of countable assets. Countable assets are basically everything other than a home, small cash value of life insurance, personal belongings, and a prepaid funeral. Almost everything else is a countable asset. And then Medicaid's going to look back 5 years to see if you moved any money around. And if you have, they're going to look at penalizing you. So this is very different than Medicare. Medicare, there is no income test, there is no asset test. Medicare is really covering inpatient hospital coverage, outpatient rehabilitative medical coverage, and then through either Part D or the Advantage Plan also covering prescription drugs. So Medicare really is just covering that short-term rehab. As it relates to care, it's not going to cover long-term care. That's where we have to look to Medicaid. And then a follow-up question is, what services are covered by hospice, or where does hospice fit into this? Well, hospice is through Medicare, so there's no cost, there's no asset test for this. And then with hospice, if you or a loved one needs hospice care, then that's where Medicare will come in. And through hospice, it'll cover maybe the stay along with pain relief, other medication support services, and when you have a terminal illness, this is where hospice could kick in. Now, to qualify for hospice, you have to be certified from a physician. And keep in mind, hospice isn't a death sentence, but the idea is that you're basically terminal. Now, we're all terminal to a certain extent, but the idea is that for hospice to kick in, a doctor has to say that it's unlikely that you'll live past 6 months. Now, that said, I've had clients on hospice for a number of years. I've had clients graduate off hospice where their health improves. So again, if you do have hospice coming in, keep in mind it's not necessarily a death sentence. You can be on hospice for a number of years. So hospice is through Medicare, but it's end of life assistance, and it's not even full care. It's not going to cover all the costs or anything like that that you may incur. But what it will do is just bring in some additional services to make that process as easy as possible. So that's the big difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Now, the next question here is what considerations are important for people who have blended families, remarriage or shared and not shared children. And so let's say you have a blended family. And we run into this actually quite often, where these days a lot of times there might be children from a previous marriage. And basically we take it on a case-by-case basis where, just like we talked about earlier with retirement planning, there needs to be some more thought that puts into the estate planning process. So if every family was exactly the same, our life, or kind of the work that we do, would be pretty boring. If everyone had a white picket fence and 2.5 kids, and well, that makes it pretty easy. But we know that basically every family we sit down with is somewhat unique. So there's a lot of things that go into planning, and specifically with blended families, because you have to look at balancing out the amount of assets in one spouse's name versus the other spouse, have to make things as easy as possible or as fair as possible for the next generation. So there's different things to take into account. And then also the different roles. So who's going to serve as a trustee? Who's going to serve as power of attorney? Those types of things. And then how are we going to divvy up the assets? Should it go outright to the surviving spouse? Should it be held in trust for the spouse? Do we want everything to go down just to the next generation with the idea that each spouse should have provided for themselves? So there's a lot of counseling that goes on in situations with blended families. There's no perfect answer. There's no magic wand. Next question here is, my mother needs a permanent nursing home. What assets can the nursing home take? Well, keep in mind, the nursing home doesn't actually take any assets. But probably what you're talking about is this idea of the Medicaid spend down, where a lot of families think they have to spend down all their assets. That's partly right. Well, to qualify for Medicaid, as I mentioned earlier, a single individual can only have $2,000 worth of countable assets. A married couple, they're going to make you cut your assets in half. At most, that healthy spouse can keep $120,000. So this Medicaid or nursing home spend down, what people are talking about is spending down to that $2,000 asset limit. And like I said, everything other than a home, small cash value of life insurance, prepaid funeral, automobile, and personal belongings counts as countable assets. So let's say you had $50,000 sitting in the bank. You could spend down by paying for the nursing home. You could pay off any mortgages. You could improve the house. So those are different things you could spend down on. But keep in mind, there's different things we can do to try to protect those resources. So you don't just have to spend down. Because one of the things we could do as elder law attorneys is we can always do what we call crisis planning, where if you do have a loved one in a nursing home right now, there's things we can do at the last minute to try to protect at least half of the assets. For example, one of the strategies that we have available is what's called a Medicaid crisis plan, more specifically a half loaf plan. Think of it kind of like a loaf of bread, where if you did have a loved one in a nursing home right now, half the money would have to go in the nursing home. The other half we would be able to protect. And a situation that we had is I had, we'll call this a hypothetical client. We'll say grandma. Grandma came into our office, or actually we're dealing with mom. Grandma had given away $10,000 to a bunch of the grandkids for college education. Then she suffered a stroke and needed long-term care. And Medicaid was going to penalize grandma unless whoever she gave the money to gave the money back. Well, do you think the kids had the money to give back? Of course not. They spent it. They spent it on their college costs. So in that situation, normally grandma would be basically SOL, where Medicaid wouldn't come in and pay any base level of care because she would have to have been penalized for these gifts. But what we're able to do in that situation is a Medicaid crisis plan. We call it a half loaf plan, like a loaf of bread, where half the money had to go to the nursing home, the other half we were able to protect. And so that's something that's available, is you don't necessarily have to engage in this nursing home or Medicaid spend down. If you're to hire a certified elder law attorney, basically an attorney or law firm that's experts in the area of planning for long-term care, then there's things we can do even at the last minute, even if you haven't engaged in any planning ahead of time. Because the earlier we start thinking about these things, the more options we have on the table. For example, one of the things we could do is always set up a castle trust, move the assets into the trust, and then once you make it 5 years, 100% of what we've moved into the trust would be protected from that nursing home or Medicaid spend down. So the earlier we start thinking about these things, the more options we have on the table. So ideally we plan ahead. But if you did have a loved one in a nursing home right now, there's things we can do still at the last minute to try to protect those resources, where we could engage in that Medicaid crisis plan. So hopefully that was helpful. The next question is, what is the advantage of a living trust versus a will? So this is a common question we get a lot of times in our workshops or via email. Do I need a trust or a will? Well, the answer is it depends. And I'm sorry that I have to give you that legal answer, but it's like the first thing we learned in our law school to make us sound smart as attorneys, say it depends. But it does depend. And this is where, again, we get to that framework of first, what are your goals? What are your dreams? Then what are the strategies we're going to help you utilize to achieve your goals and dreams? And then what are the tools we're going to use? So if your goal was just to avoid probate, we could do that without a trust. We could rely on a will-based estate plan with the idea that the will, it's there as a spare tire, it's a backup. In reality, we're relying on the beneficiary designations. So it's important to understand that if your goal is to avoid probate, we don't need to do a trust because there's 4 ways assets transfer out of an individual's name upon death, and we call this estate administration. So first, we have joint ownership. So if we have a married couple, one spouse passes away, it goes to the survivor. Second, we have beneficiary designations. So if you have a life insurance policy or 401k IRA, you pass away, it goes to whoever you've named as a beneficiary. Third, we have trusts, and there's different types of trusts, but think of a trust kind of like a suitcase. You put things into the suitcase while you're alive and well, you're holding on to the suitcase. Something happens to you, you pass away, you pass that suitcase on to a successor trustee. But if an asset doesn't pass through joint ownership, beneficiary designation, trust, then it ends up going into probate. And that's usually people's number one goal with regards to estate planning, is that they want to avoid probate. And so to do that, you don't need to rely on a trust, because you can do that through things like beneficiary designations and joint ownership. But a trust can do more than avoid probate, and this is why I would start looking at a trust, is because maybe you want to do more than avoid probate. Maybe you wanted to build in the opportunity for a lifetime of asset protection for your kids, or you want to protect assets for your own needs, or maybe you're a blended family and you want to make sure that you can provide for the spouse, but then when that spouse passes away, you don't want that spouse to remarry and leave the money to a new spouse, but instead you want that money to go down to the next generation. Well, in that situation, we might look at a trust. So what's the difference between a will and a trust? Well, they both avoid probate, but with a trust, we can do more than avoid probate. We can build in the opportunity for a lifetime of asset protection for the beneficiaries. We can build in the opportunity for a lifetime of asset protection for you. So it just gives us some more flexibility, some more planning options. And that's why a lot of people do look at the trust as an opportunity or the way that they want to pass down that legacy. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. I enjoyed having Julie on the show talking about senior centers and the Hamburg Senior Center specifically. And congratulations to my friend who's retiring and moving out to sunny Arizona. Make it a great week. Take care.
Learn more about Chris Berry and how he can help your family by visiting online at thechrisberryshow.com. That's thechrisberryshow.com. You can also call Chris Berry at 810-355-2584. That's 810-355-2584. This program content reflects the opinions of Chris Berry and his guests, not the elder care firm Prosperity Capital Advisors or the Castle Wealth Group, and is subject to change at any time without notice. Content provided herein is for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as investment or legal advice, or as a recommendation regarding the purchase or sale of any security, or to follow any legal or tax strategy. There's no guarantee that the strategist's statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. All investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There's no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. We recommend that you consult with a professional dedicated to your needs. This program is furnished by the Elder Care Firm.